2013. And tonight, Jim and Shelly are bravely here to tell their daughter's story. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jim and Shelly Burton.
Good evening. My husband is not one for the spotlight, but I would like to take a moment to let you know that he did accompany me here today and has supported me throughout our whole entire journey. Thank you, Jim. It's an honor to be standing here in front of you on behalf of Angels of Hope. Well, helpful. We stand before you as a 3-time grant recipient of Angels of Hope. It wasn't because we couldn't manage our money, nor was it because we wanted to be recognized. It wasn't because we were looking for handouts. It was because that's how many times cancer struck our family. Our lives changed forever on September 11, 2008. That was the day our only child was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Nicole, then 4, bravely battled this beast. In and out of the hospital, numerous trips to the clinic. I was forced to take a leave of absence so that I could care for my child and take away this beast. I sat in the hospital while my husband continued to work, sometimes out of town, only so that we too could have a roof over our heads when we returned from our hospital stays. It was then that we were told of Angels of Hope from a friend of my sister's who was a volunteer. I quickly filled out the application, was contacted 2 days later by Steve York, who said, gather these information up for me and I'll see what I can do. 2 days following that, our bills were paid. There's a text up here. Good luck, Steve. Anyhow, 2 days later, all of our bills were paid. As you saw in the video, it took away great stressors of the financial burden where we could actually spend time and care for our daughter and focus on her treatments. On March 23rd, we were finished with treatment. Life was on its way to becoming normal. On May 17, 2011, I was rushed to the hospital with a blood clot in my heart and in my lung. I had 3 doctors stand in front of me, telling me I wasn't going to live when my phone rang. It was Nicole's oncologist. Her cancer had returned. The plan at that time was to get me well enough so that I could be discharged, go home and pick Nicole up, head back down to Children's, and start treatment all over again. Treatment was started and a new bone marrow biopsy was performed. Nicole's cancer had returned, and this time it had returned with a vengeance. A bone marrow transplant was her only hope. My next call was to Steve York. I explained to him what was going on. He immediately told me to follow the same steps, and he would get me help as soon as we could. 6 days later, our bills were paid. We didn't have the worry or the stress on our shoulders. It showed us that an angel stepped in and took over. Nicole sailed through her bone marrow transplant. They told us to expect to stay in the hospital up to 100 days. We were in and out in 30. She did great. We were so proud of her. Nicole knew exactly what she had to do so that she could go home, and she did just that. We had 18 and a half great months. Nicole's cancer was gone. She felt great. She returned back to school. She started started karate with Kids Kicking Cancer. Life was back on the right track, and we couldn't have been happier at that time. And then the ball dropped again. I noticed that Nicole was having a hard time getting in and out of our truck. I joked and told her to get her chunky butt back up in the car. She laughed and said, "I can't, Mama." I thought that because she had been in the hospital, her muscles were weak, and that maybe all she needed was some physical therapy. So off to our routine clinic visit we went, where I began to tell the doctor about Nicole's weakness. He asked her to perform some simple exercises in the office, where he looked at me and said, "This isn't just generalized weakness. Nicole has what we call graft versus host disease, or GVHD. Basically, it was a rejection to the bone marrow." So once again, we now had to start treatment all over again for the graft versus host. Nicole was given 2 rounds of Rituxan, which is an IV therapy drug that should have taken and put the graft versus host into a state of remission, allowing her body then to have the healthy bone marrow cells kick in and save her life. That step failed. Photopheresis was our next step. Photopheresis is a form of dialysis where the blood is taken from the body, ran through a UV ray, and then fed back into the body, hoping that it will enhance the cells so that it could get it back into a state of remission. Nicole's photopheresis was nothing but a trip through hell. Her catheter that they used to perform the photopheresis was too small. It was hours of tears and pain and turmoil that we put this little girl through just to try to get her back into remission. We ended up having to put in a larger catheter, which meant another surgery. We did end up getting 1 round of photopheresis into Nicole, and she came ill with a cold, which meant we were back in the hospital for 7 to 10 days. While in this time, the doctor ran some more extensive tests. He noticed that on October 22nd of 2013, Nicole's cancer was back yet a 3rd time. At this point, her doctor told us that this was not a good thing. Basically, we were now battling the graft versus host as well as a new diagnosis of leukemia. They had exhausted all of the forms of treatment. However, at this point, there were 2 trial studies that were going on, and her doctor wanted to see if she qualified for either one of them. Long story short, she didn't qualify for either. At this point, we were given 2 choices. One, we could use a toxin that would put Nicole into intensive care and on machines until her body gave up. Or the second choice was to choose palliative care, which is supportive care until hospice was needed. Nicole wanted to go home. We took Nicole home. We're on November 8th of 2013, she passed away. She was a fighter, a warrior, and now an angel. During this period of time, once again, the Angels of Hope was right there to help us out financially. They gave us peace, letting us be with our child stress-free as she gained her wings. However, one thing that did not cost Angels of Hope a single cent was when Steve York graciously accepted the offer to be a pallbearer for Nicole. He accepted with honors. He carried our baby to her final resting place, allowing us once again to know that angels were with us throughout our entire journey. There are no words to say thank you to something like that. There are no words to tell you what Angels of Hope has meant to our family. Jim and I will continue to forever share the good works and the words of Angels of Hope. We would like to thank all of you here today. Your donations will make the life of a family with cancer that much easier. It will ease the pain. It will lighten the load. It will someday allow you to smile. With that being said, I'd like to present a few checks today. It may not be the 10 grand that was given. It may not be 100,000. But Nicole's school is presenting a check for $1,500. And Jim and I would like to present 1,000. Thank you for keeping us strong. We only hope that we can help others along the way. Thank you.